Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's I didn't plan on doing a live stream tonight, but I was in the process of thinking of getting some videos out, but I had a really busy day at work, so I just ended up coming in a lot later than I thought. So I thought rather than doing a video and putting it all together and editing it, I thought I'd just do a quick live and put some videos out the rest of the week. So appreciate everyone who's here already. Brilliant that you've joined me tonight. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for short notice. I appreciate, but really appreciate it. So I can already see a few people in the comments. Peter is here. We'll come back to Peter's comment in a minute. But evening, Peter. Evening, JB. Evening, Liam. Liam, I'll respond to you later on about that. Okay. And evening, Marty as well. And really, I just thought, obviously it's the international break and we're all a bit fed up of it. And I just thought we're now on the countdown to Brentford. And obviously last week was great from a Newcastle point of view, in my opinion, because it was positive and there was loads of good stuff from Eddie Howe and there was loads of good, there's all the media stuff and Staveley did an interview and all that kind of stuff was going on. And that was fantastic. And now I think, obviously, it's gone a little bit quieter on. Hopefully the guys are just getting on with their jobs, essentially. I know there's been some news today about various things, and we'll touch on that about sponsorship money and that kind of thing, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But hopefully the guys can just get on in private, just sort of get on with the training, get on with planning for the Brentford game. And I'm so excited about the Brentford game already. It can't come soon enough, and I think it'll be really interesting to see which team Howe picks, what formation he picks, how the team will play, if they'll be less defensive than we've become used to. I'm sure he'll try and change that so that we're more attacking. There's lots and lots of questions and lots of unknowns that no one knows actually what's going to happen. I'm actually going to do a video later in the week where I'm going to highlight different formations and lineups that I think Howe might do. I was going to do a video where I just thought this is my prediction of the 11 he's going to pick and this, but then I thought actually I can't quite figure that out myself. So what I thought was I've already kind of done this. I've planned most of it. I thought I'd sort of go down the route of thinking of three formations that are the most likely with the lineup, and I'll give you a few bits and pieces on that tonight, of course, but I don't want to spoil it all for the video, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting, and obviously I'll be really interested to know what you think, what team he'll play, what formation he's going to play, and yeah, just be really good. Just there's lots going on. It's just really exciting, isn't it? There's always loads to talk about now. The manager's now in place, but there's other things that have come on. So let's get into some of your comments as well. So Liam, even though I'm not going to Brentford at home, I can't wait for it. And I think just being part of Newcastle United's fan base, doesn't matter whether you're going to St James's Park on Saturday or not, it is an exciting time. It's always quite exciting when a new manager starts gets his first game. But this one, because we've got so much hope for Eddie Howe, I think the vast majority of supporters are very much behind him. It feels like we've finally shaken off the remnants of the old era. Of course, we had the news today that Agnew and the other Steve have gone. I'm forgetting his name. Stephen Clements and Steve Agnew, both gone as well. That's another sign. Another sign that the Ashley era is coming to an end. And obviously, that wasn't the only news regarding the old era today. There was also this. It comes as no surprise to anybody, let's be honest. But I mean, it is as disgraceful as we thought it would be. There's no other word for it other than disgrace. Newcastle received the equivalent of just £157,500 a year for all that Sports Direct advertising under Ashley. Now, if you talk about those, these so-called Big Six clubs who are trying their hardest to make sure that we get sponsorship deals at market rate and fairness. I didn't see any of them complaining when Ashley was paying us 157,000 grand a year for all his, graffiti of our stadium with his awful brand. It's just a hypocrisy of the highest order, clearly. obviously we were no threat, so that's fine for them. Now they're worried that that's going to change and go completely the other way in terms of like having massive sponsorship deals, and that's absolutely fine too. Now, what is that work? By the way, that works out at about £3,000 a week, £3,000 a week for all that advertising. Now, if you think about how big an audience the Premier League have, how many people watch the Premier League and watch Newcastle and see his brand, it's absolutely outrageous, to be perfectly honest, that the club were basically, it was essentially free advertising. In the budget of a Premier League team, it's as close to free advertising as you could possibly imagine getting. It's absolutely disgraceful. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about it, but it's obviously in the news, it's relevant, and it's as bad as we thought it would be, and if not worse, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, it wasn't even like £1 million a year; it was like 157 grand a year. Absolutely shocking, to be honest. It's just, I don't know, it's just not good enough. Like Marty says, 157 grand covers 2 players' wages, but that's a week. This was a year, like £157,000 a year. It's just absolutely unreal. Okay, so good evening to Mark as well. Just going back to this, so Peter, obviously it's been eye-opening seeing the mess Ashley made of the sponsorship advertising revenue, especially how much he's fleeced the club of the Sports Direct deal. Thankfully gives us room for massive growth. Now, that is the positive, Peter. The positive to this, like the other side of this coin, of course, is that this massively helps us now moving forwards, because in terms of financial fair play and all that kind of stuff, as soon as we get those big sponsorship deals in, then, which are going to come very, very soon. We know that, and Steve's pointing this out now. These sponsorship deals are going to come in. That's going to help us with our financial fair play. And actually, the room we have for growth is massive. And to be honest, this is why, like, it's made me think, like people were saying, like Everton fans, for example, quite a lot of them were like, well, we've got a billionaire takeover. We've spent hundreds and hundreds of £1 million, and look, we've only managed to get here. But none of the like big six, your big six in quotes, were bothered about Everton's takeover, and yet they're massively bothered about Newcastle's. Now, if that doesn't tell you that they are threatened by Newcastle's takeover and not Everton's, who they just see as another takeover of, everyone who comes in now is going to be a billionaire. But they weren't threatened in the same way by Everton. Our deal, they're scared. They're scared because the potential for Newcastle already got a big fan base. Already, we've now got the Saudi PIF behind us and all their contacts and potential sponsorships we can have from them. It's absolutely massive. And actually, part of me was thinking, when this takeover first happened, obviously delighted Ashley went, delighted it happened, really excited about the future, just generally. But part of me was thinking, well, we can't do a Man City. We can't do that. And we still can't do that, to be fair. And I thought that this would take a lot of years for us to become like at the top of the Premier League. Like, it's not going to be even a 5-year thing. It's going to be like 6, 7, 8 years or something. But the more I think about it now, and I think of how the other 6 clubs of those 6, let's be honest, Spurs and Liverpool seem to be leading the way on it. They're scared, genuinely scared of Newcastle and what we might end up being, because they might lose their seat at the table, which is already not big enough anyway. Like, the table's not big enough anyway. And I really do believe that we could do this, actually. Like, in terms of like not a Man City like Man City did, because I don't think that can happen anymore. But I do think that we can get there in a way that I wasn't sure we could, because of what I would heard about, well, Everton have had this and still haven't been able to crack the top 4, that sort of thing. So we'll see anyway. We'll see what happens. Ricky, evening. So excited to see the new era start. Eddie Howe has presented himself very, very well from a Villa fan. Cheers, Ricky. And be interested to know your thoughts on your new manager. Were you disappointed Dean Smith went? And are you happy that Steven Gerrard's come? Be interesting to hear from a Villa fan on that one, actually. So, Yeah, apparently our new sponsorship deal will be like a Saudi airline like Man City has with the Etihad. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it's something like that. Now I know that Staveley mentioned, didn't she, about basically like this temporary ban that the Premier League put in place on sponsorship deals with links to companies that the owners own. They put that ban in for a month. Staveley made a comment last week, which was basically along the lines of that temporary ban is ending, and we've got stuff in place to strike those deals as soon as that ban comes to an end. Because clearly there was some kind of legal issue around that. In my opinion, it seems that way because they haven't extended it, which would suggest that Newcastle's lawyers have got onto the phone to these other Premier League clubs and said, "Look, you cannot do this. You cannot make us not have sponsorship deals with like whoever we want, essentially." So it's going to be really interesting to see what this sponsorship deal will be like. I don't know the ins and outs of it as well, but I was wondering, do you think that the sponsorship deal might start small with the idea of it increasing a little bit each year to then increase revenue each year? So it's like a guaranteed revenue stream that would increase, which would then, improve our chance of financial fair play, essentially. I just wonder if that's it. I'm kind of hoping for a 2-2 draw so we can stay up, not winning in the first 12. Yeah, I mean, I don't know your point. I mean, I'm hoping for a win. I saw. Hopefully, we don't lose. I've said this before about the Brentford games and Brentford, Norwich, Burnley games. It's important we win at least one of them and not lose the other two. So I do agree in that respect. If we drew to Brentford, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me personally. I think we'd still potentially have the potential to be okay. But yeah, like I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think, as we've talked about, the next 4 matches, the first 4 matches for Eddie Howe, absolutely huge. Cans out if we win on Saturday, it'll be amazing. I think considering we haven't won all season and we are going to still be in the bottom 3 regardless of what happens on Saturday, it is. If we do win, it's going to feel massive. And I think really importantly, the team's performance is going to be interesting. I'm kind of excited to see how the team plays. Like, are we gonna be the dominant team? Are we going to be the ones who have the most possession? Are we going to be the ones who put them on the back foot? Are we going to impose ourselves on them like Eddie Howe says he likes his teams to do? Now, let's be honest about this. Eddie Howe didn't promise he'd do that straight away. What Eddie Howe said was that's what we're working towards. And I think there's got to be an appreciation that ultimately it's going to be a process, even with Eddie Howe. Like, he can't just suddenly switch these players to be like amazing all-out attack, possession-based football. It can't quite happen like that because the players are so ingrained in the way they've played for so long. It's going to take a bit of time. However, I do believe that he will be more attacking. We will be more front foot. Maybe Brentford might have more possession with us. I'm not too concerned about possession stats. A lot. Look, I've been as guilty as anyone. I've said about possession stats in the past, but that's because when we have possession, we do nothing with it anyway. So when we're only having 25 to 35% possession in a match and we're not doing anything with it anyway, then it's a massive issue. But if we have 35 to 45% on Saturday, say, and we win 1-0, I'd be delighted with that. Absolutely delighted. Malcolm, he was getting the advertising for free initially until it was pointed out it was illegal. Right, I hadn't actually picked up on that, Malcolm. So actually, that 157 grand a year, if you averaged it out over the course of his tenure, would be less, wouldn't it? If he was actually getting free advertising, that's insane. Like, I mean, it's literally illegal stuff going on there. I mean, but no one said anything. No one said anything. Like, where were the other clubs complaining about our sponsorship deals then? That's what really sticks here. I mean, everyone's out for themselves, but it's just awful. I read this, Peter, that Everton had, I think you meant 1,009% growth, actually. That's what I read, like, add an extra 0 in the middle there. And we had 5% growth, like, in the same period. And we were essentially, we knew what was happening as fans. We weren't competing. We weren't trying to get better. We were literally just trying to survive. There was no effort to win cup competitions, all that kind of stuff. We all know the story. But when you see the figures and you see how much Ashley held us back, how much he hamstrung us as a football club for so long, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And we've got nothing to be thankful to that man for. Nothing at all, because he wasted 14 years of all of our lives following Newcastle United. He made the club irrelevant for 14 years, essentially. And no one cared. No one cared apart from Newcastle fans. Everyone thought it was funny. Everyone thought it was funny. Football should unite against bad owners, regardless of who the club is, because football doesn't need bad owners. No club, no set of fans deserves terrible owners. And you want your generational support to continue. And let's be honest, I think we have lost a lot of supporters in those 10 years, say, because there'll have been lots of young people between the ages of 10 and 20 who have looked at Newcastle under Ashley and gone, do you know what? I'm going to go and support Man City or Chelsea or whatever, or Liverpool. And it's because Newcastle were irrelevant. And it was all because Ashley had this horrible idea that he could do everything on the cheap, like he could with every other business. If he had paid us a proper advertising fee, wouldn't we have been in a strong position with regards to financial fair play? I guess so, Mark. I guess that is true, because obviously on the books it would look like we had bigger revenues, and therefore we might be able to spend more initially. My understanding is, and I might be wrong on this. Again, I'm not an expert on financial fair play, but my understanding is, because we were in the black, if we can increase revenues now, that's going to help us massively, because we were in the black, if that makes sense. I think it's a very complicated thing, to be fair. Yeah, just going back to the Everton point, Big Six sees Everton how they see clubs like Wolves. I think what I'm saying, Liam, is like it took me a little while. It's taken me a couple of weeks to realise that actually, whenever, because when we got taken over by the Saudis, there were so many supporters of other clubs telling us, well, don't get carried away, because Everton have had a takeover. They've spent, 200, whatever it was, £300 million on players. Look where they are. They're still like top 10, but they can't get any better than that. But when you look at how the top six, the big six clubs, big six, in every time I say that, just imagine I'm saying it like this. The big six clubs, how they reacted to Everton's takeover. You've not heard a mention of it, not a murmur of it. As soon as the Saudis bought Newcastle, they're panicking. That tells me that they know we have a much greater chance of cracking that top four than Everton and teams like that. Even though Everton have got a lot of money, they've got an owner who spent a lot of money, they're worried about Newcastle. They're not worried about Everton. Why? Why is that? Why? And it's because they know the Saudis can come in, they can turn this club around, we can get huge revenues, we can spend big money. It's going to take time. We know we're not going to do it instantly, but it will happen. It will happen. And I think it will happen quicker than I thought it might. We need to survive this season, though. That's it's really important we don't go down this season, because we don't want to get knocked back a year or two, because that would be frustrating. Interesting. Oh, right. So this is really interesting, Steve. So this, going back to the horrible advertising of that company, they had around 300 grand a year sales in the Far East in 2008. So this was the time Ashley bought the club, right? So basically unknown in Asia. 300 million pounds last year. 300 million pounds. So where's he got that brand recognition from? Why have suddenly he been able to expand into the Asian market? Why is his brand known over there and has good, obviously people trust that brand over there? Why? Because they see it in the Premier League. They've seen it in the Premier League. Now, he's paid us £157,000 a year, and look at his revenues. Look at the revenues from over there. I don't know what the profit is on that, but it'd be massive, won't it? And what have Newcastle seen from that? Pretty much nothing. It's just disgrace. It's absolutely disgraceful. Football. There's no place in football for people like Mike Ashley. Don't want to do a Man City. I want to do a Leicester. What I mean, I think, Liam, is that Man City kind of went from nothing to like up here very, very quickly. That's what I mean. We want the club to be built properly. I get that. We want to do that in terms of like Leicester. They seem to have built it up well. They're sensible. But ultimately, we need to do Leicester, but with turbochargers. So we want to be as sensible. Like Man City made loads of mistakes when they first got taken over, didn't they? Absolutely, they got they got they got things wrong. Like they got it took them a few years to kind of get it all right. What we need to do is because now Man City run really, really well. We want to do that, but quicker. We don't want to make those mistakes that Man City made. And to be fair, Man City's owners didn't have a blueprint for what they wanted to do. Our owners now have a blueprint. We can look at Man City, look at PSG even, and say, right, how did they do it? What did they get wrong? Let's not do it like that, and let's do it the correct way. Yes, good point, Peter. So it's going to help that the Premier League agreed separation, so technically they can't stop Saudi investors. Yeah, we know that. It's a good point. Okay, Andy, evening. Just waiting to see the fitness now with proper training, not blowing out after half an hour. Love seeing how put the players through their paces. Yeah, lovely comment, great comment. It's exciting because we know that what I love about what Eddie Howe's done this week is we know how hard he's trained them, right? We know that because we've seen. By the way, let's give a shout out finally to the media team at the official Newcastle social media channels because we are getting some great content now. They must be loving their jobs now. All of a sudden, there's a buzz, but also they're allowed to post stuff that's worth posting and really enjoying. Like I'm enjoying seeing all these little clips and things that we're getting from them. So very, very good job by those guys. Yeah, but the fitness, that's the key factor. So how much fitness, how quickly can he build that match fitness up, that sort of deep level of base fitness to keep going and hang in there until the 90th minute in matches and not be tired, like you say, after half an hour or whatever, which is something that's happened regularly. Just look at the Spurs game as a prime example of, the players going all out. Terrific start, but then after 20 minutes they were shot because they'd started so hard and just couldn't keep up with it. So it's going to be very interesting. But what also I love about Eddie Howe, so the other thing I was going to say is the fact that he's worked them hard, but he's taken them out. They've had a team night out. They've gone and trained at St James's Park. Just lots of things. And by the way, let's talk about the training at St James's Park for a bit. Like, how cool was that seeing those photographs? Again, good content from the official Newcastle channels. How good was it seeing players like Gale with a smile on his face, Joe Linton buzzing? Like, there's just so many positive vibes coming from all this stuff that we're having access to. It's just absolutely brilliant. Ricky, the Villa fan, is happy with Gerrard. Born winner, and everyone has to start somewhere. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens with Gerrard. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, he's obviously did well at Rangers. Ultimately, you've got to, if you're going to manage in the Premier League, you have got to start somewhere, like you say. So, whatever. I feel like we're relegation rivals at the moment, so I don't really want to wish you luck. But I don't know. We'll see what Gerrard does. I'm not. I think the jury's out. Basically, would be my opinion on that. Peter, I hope you're right. Hope we'll blow the bloody doors off against Brentford. Let's hope they do. I think the atmosphere will blow the roof off. Like, I think it's going to be awesome. Evening, we've got a Bournemouth fan. Also a big fan of Eddie Howe. Really pleased for him and you, Newcastle fans. He'll work 110% for you. I just wish the so-called pundits would give him a break. Very good point. I mean, thank you, by the way. I think 99% of Newcastle supporters, from what I can tell, are fully behind Eddie Howe. He has come in and he has really shown us that he understands this football club already. We can already see his work ethic is tremendous. Like he's pulling long shifts already. He's had the players in training most days. I think they probably only had Sunday off. He already, we're impressed with him, and I really hope that it works for him, because obviously he's Newcastle manager, so I hope it works for him. But I think genuinely we get a good feel for him, and I think that I hope he can translate his vision onto the pitch, and that we see the success that he can bring. Like, people keep saying, "Oh, well, you'll have Eddie Howe for a couple of years, and then you'll get a top class manager in." Well, I hope Eddie Howe proves to them that we don't need to do that. That's what I hope for him. I hope that I would much rather see Eddie Howe come in, keep this team up, and then build it himself and reap the rewards himself. But we'll see what happens. We know things change quickly in football. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. I just hope that we can get off to a good start. Ian says, I think Stabley and the PIF won't splash cash too much. They have pretend that they want to build long term and not throw cash at everything. I think you're right in the short term. I don't think they're going to splash. I don't think in January, for example, we're going to spend £150 million on players. I just don't think that will happen. It would be silly, to be honest with you. I think that would be silly if they did that. I think they'll make good use of the loan market. I think they'll buy 2 or 3 players permanently. And I think they'll be sensible. I think I can see us spending somewhere between 50 and 100 million, right? That's what I reckon in January, because prices will be at a premium. Everyone knows we've got the cash. And at the end of the day, January is always a time when you get robbed anyway, because teams are desperate. If you're buying in January, you're desperate. Stabley herself said, January is not when we want to do our business. But at the moment, we have to use the January transfer window because of the situation the team's in. Now, going forwards, I'd be very surprised if we spend anything in a January transfer. I mean, we will obviously probably buy the odd player here and there in a January, but they're gonna adopt a model which is buying players in the summer ready for the season and then sticking with that squad throughout the season. And I think that's the right way to do it. It's what we've been crying out for. A club with a bit of vision, a bit of thought going into recruitment, like a bit of like a plan. We've not had that for ever, like 15 years minimum. We've not had that. So we'll see what happens. This is a good point, Patrick. Ultimately, the other clubs are concerned about the revenue levels. It's always about the money. There's nothing about the morals of it. And let's be honest, we've ended up with Saudis owning our club. And yet there are people who are talking about the moral side of things, and I get that. We can't hide away from that as fans, as a club. Like we've just got to accept that that's there. I said in my previous live stream that I don't think supporting Newcastle and being against what the Saudi government stand for, I don't think that it's hypocritical to have both of those things. Like we just want to support Newcastle. We can't help who our owners are. But yeah, you're right. It's like if it's all about the cash, that's all anyone is. It's all anyone's bothered about in the Premier League. 30% possession would be a result. Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? It would. Yeah, so Marty, possession is important, but I'm more interested in the pressing increase. This is what I'm saying about possession. Like, it's not the be-all, end-all. It's been used a lot around Newcastle recently for very good reasons, and I've used it myself because actually we know that when we're in possession, we're bad with it. So having not a lot of it, it just means that we don't do much with it, and we just don't give ourselves a chance. We can win games with less than 50% possession, but it's all about how you go about your game. And like Jack says here, we need the possession share up to protect the defence. The old mantra that attack is the best form of defence, it is. Because if you've got the ball, unless you're like doing something horrendously bad in your own box, they're not going to score. Like if you've got possession, they're not going to score. So it's best to try and do that, isn't it? That's interesting as well, Steve. Didn't realise. I've kind of not read in a lot of detail about it, if I'm honest. I've mainly read just the headline figures and that kind of thing. So apparently an independent large advertising agency estimated sports direct advertising should have cost around £9 million per year. So what does that tell you? Like it's, I can't wait. What is that? So he was paying £157,000 a year. So God, I can't even work that out. 10, about 90 times as much, I think. 90 times less than it should have been by my rough calculations in my head. That's outrageous. Imagine that. Where, like I said, where's the fair market rate in that? Ian, this is a good point. I nearly mentioned this earlier, then it kind of popped out of my head. But yes, they will splash the cash on facilities and all that kind of stuff. So I think that the training ground and the academy are going to get done really, really soon. Absolutely, and I think that's going to happen. That's going to happen almost immediately. That sort of stuff, as soon as they possibly can. Now, I reckon we'll just end up with a brand new training site. I don't think they'll knock the current one down and build it there. They'll want more land. They'll probably want to build the training ground, the women's team, the under-23s team, any youth teams that we've got below that. They'll want all that, the academy, they'll want all that on the same site. So I think we'll end up with this huge complex, a little bit like Leicester have or like Man City have, that kind of thing. These Liverpool as well, they've kind of got a new training ground as well, haven't they? And that's what we'll be going for. They'll be going for this kind of integrated sports village, essentially, and it'll be amazing. Chelsea and Leicester have both won the league. I'd take either model. Who exactly? That's what we want. We want to see Newcastle win something in our lifetime. Leicester winning the league was like when Blackburn with it. Yeah, it was. It was sort of a similar thing. I mean, Leicester did well that season to do it, didn't they? If we're honest, the other top teams were on a down year. They all had a down year at that time, but Leicester did what they had to do. Leicester did what no one else could do, and fair play to them for doing it. And Ricky, I think this is an excellent point as well. So it's all about the infrastructure for Newcastle from now. Get the inside right, then work outwards. And that's what I think they're doing. That's what I think the owners are doing. Like, now that Howe's in place, they can kind of just let him get on with that. They can let him get on with the team and managing that. And hopefully that will take care of itself, because we've got a good manager, good coaches, who's going to work his ass off and get us safe. But what that allows Staveley and the rest of the people running the club is that they can now they can actually drop back into the shadows a bit, and they can find who they need to find. They can build that football structure of people. They need to get the director of football in, but not just that. They need scouts. They need a team of people who analyze data and whatever, all those things that a top Premier League elite football club should do that we don't have. All needs putting in place, and that means recruiting a lot of people. They want to get that right. So they've audited the club. They've probably already come up with the structure they want. So now they're probably very busy finding people for those roles, and that will include interviewing people. That's a big recruitment drive, and that is time consuming, but it will happen. It will happen, and the club's going to be all the better for it. Get that sorted, get that footballing structure behind the scenes sorted, get the training ground sorted, get the academy sorted, clean the ground up, all that stuff. Make it as good as possible, and then you can go. You've set your foundations, and you're building on stone, not sand. And that will hold you in good stead. They're doing things the right way. We've got to trust them, because these people know what they're doing, and they might not be football people, but they know how to run successful businesses. And at the end of the day, they have to put all the pieces of the jigsaw in place. And some of it will go wrong. Some of it won't. It won't be smooth. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we know we're in good hands. We know we're in good hands. Eddie Howe's not well known for running the same training drill twice. Exactly, and that's good, isn't it? Like, that is, if you were a player, I think you can tell by the reaction of the players just how much they're enjoying it. Like, so they've basically trained most days since Howe's arrived, right? But for me, the body language on everything I've seen looks like they're buzzing about it. Like, they're probably thinking. Most of them, I think, will be thinking, "Oh, finally! Like, someone pushing us, someone making us better, someone improving us." They'll buy into that. They'll buy into Howe. They'll buy into what he's trying to do, because if he's giving them stuff, if he's giving them his time, and he's giving them, the ability to improve themselves, most of them will be happy with that. I agree with that. Just going back to the Steven Gerrard thing, risky for Gerrard. If it goes tits up, it could massively affect his chances for the Liverpool job. And this is it. I think his thinking though, Peter, is that he had to, if he wanted the Liverpool job, he couldn't only do the Rangers job. I think he had to step into the Premier League. He must feel very confident that he can keep Villa up. And then if he keeps Villa up, fair enough, he can probably then build on it. So, what is the San Marino score? I've got absolutely no idea. I don't have it on or anything. So, what's the current score there in the England game? Heard they didn't even get Sunday off. They were back at St James's Park. If that's true, I mean, hopefully it's just a case of Howe saying, look, for these 2 weeks, we are going to train intensely. We're going to do a lot of work on tactics. And because not all of it will be like hard, really like knackering training, but it'll have been a lot of tactical work, a lot of probably watching videos of like Brentford and all that kind of stuff. And he'll be saying, look, we're going to just work on this as a mini preseason intensely for a couple of weeks. We'll do Brentford, and then he'll have some regular routine after that, I reckon. We need smart signings that we know could definitely keep us up in January. The summer is where you can start to be a bit more ambitious. I totally agree with that, William. Totally agree with that. It's all about surviving this season. It's about buying players who you think are good enough to keep you up. Now, again, one of the videos I'm going to create this week, one of the videos I'm going to make is the potential lineups that I think Eddie Howe might go for. One of the other videos I'm going to make is all about potential signings in January, and I'm going to make that video this week. That'll come out. So we need smart signings that we know could definitely keep us up in January. Totally agree. We've got to get players who are going to improve the team, who are going to be. I think as far as possible they'll try and stick with players who've got a bit of Premier League experience, because at this stage you don't want to risk bringing in players who don't know the league. So I think that there'll be a focus on players who know the league. And then totally agree with William here. Then in the summer, once you survive, fingers crossed, that's when you start saying, right, what are we going to do here? Because it's a clean slate in August. Everyone's on 0 points. Let's see who we can attract. Yeah, we don't have European football, so we're not going to get the best of the best, but we're going to attract a better calibre of player if we can sell them the vision of what Newcastle are going to become. Mark says, does anyone know if you can get away tickets if you don't have a season ticket? I want to take my boy to the Leeds game in January. Imagine it'll be difficult to get tickets. I know that the ticket sales at the moment, basically, Leicester's obviously sold out, but I don't think I think it went down to people with 10 plus loyalty points to the Leicester game. I know it started at 50 and then it went down to 25, then it went down to 10. Liverpool's currently on sale at 30 points. So I've not seen any of the away games go on like a member sale. I don't know if away games do go on a member sale, but so I'm not sure. It is going to get hard. It's already getting harder to get tickets, I think, to be fair, Mark. So maybe someone can answer Mark's question for him. I'm not 100% sure. John says, I've changed my mind about never going back to St James's Park after seeing how Eddie does, how he works. So that's good, John. So you feel like you can believe again in what's going on, and go back to St James's Park. I think that's brilliant. Jesse Lingard for 10 million is peanuts. I'd be all over that deal in a minute. Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to try and get him in if we can. He went to West Ham last season, did an amazing job. Let's see if we can get him here. Loved hearing Howe's quotes regarding the training facilities. He simply implied all he needs is a pitch, cones, and a bit of vision. Very refreshing to hear his enthusiasm for the job. Yeah, I mean, I guess essentially he's right, isn't he? Like, you don't need the fancy stuff, but ultimately, a top-level club should have the best of the best, because that's what everyone else has. And if you want to attract players in, you got to impress them with where they're going to be doing the majority of their work, which is on the training ground. This is a good question, Will. Establishing playing style precedes pragmatism and results, or vice versa. I think Eddie Howe himself sort of was saying in his press conferences that actually he wants this playing style. He wants to be on the front foot. He wants to be attacking. He wants to play a nice, attractive brand of football. But if you listen to his quotes carefully, it was kind of like, that's going to take a bit of time. And I actually think Don't get me wrong, I don't think Eddie Howe for 1 minute is going to line us up with 5 at the back and four in midfield like we have seen under Bruce and then Graham Jones. But I think that we might see he's not going to just open us up at the back because he wants to play attacking football, because he knows that would be suicidal. So my answer to that is, I think you can hold off on the playing style for a while. You can try and improve it and make it a little bit better. But ultimately, we need results. And actually, that's what is more important now. And if that means playing a little bit of a more boring, dull style of football for a while as you try and improve, I'd take that every day of the week right now because of the position we're in. So, yeah, 100% take the results over the style of play for now. But ultimately, I don't want to accept playing as defensively as we have done, because that, one, doesn't work, and two, we're better than that. I believe we're better than that. I've seen a few people say this, Jim. How becomes our Sir Alex would be brilliant, and what a future. And I think we'd all love to see that. We'd all love to see that. Against teams like Liverpool and Man City, don't expect us to have much possession. We're not going to, are we? Let's be honest. Especially this season, it's going to take time to build a team that is capable of competing against those types of teams and dominating them. We're just not there. I mean, we're so far away from that. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Chris says, Eddie Howe's a class act. He's a grafter and a good bloke. It's just what we need right now. He put the hard yards in at Bournemouth, almost down and out in League Two, to being a solid Premier League team. And this is the job he did. You've got to look at his job at Bournemouth as a whole thing, and it was an exceptional job, and he's earned the respect. You know, let's be honest. This was a guy who was linked with the England job when Southgate got it, and that's because he had done a bloody good job at Bournemouth. And like, it's so weird that he gets labelled. Oh, he took him down. He's got a relegation. Well, yeah, he has. But like, so have a lot of managers. It doesn't mean they're bad managers. There's circumstances, and Howe doesn't have anything to. He doesn't need to defend himself in that respect. His record speaks for itself. With a club with very limited resources, he was able to keep in the Premier League for 5 years. You know, it's incredible, and taking them from basically going bust. Now, Mark. Please don't go around saying that. Right. With Hazard and Coutinho still having high stock in England, despite being bad in Spain, could we cash in on Ian's favourite player, Joe Linton, if he goes back to Germany? Can I just clear something up? He's not my favourite player. Never said he's my favourite player. I will talk about Joe Linton in a minute, though. I'm going to address that in a second. But going back to Hazard and Coutinho, could we get them? I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you're looking in the summer, there's a possibility you might be able to attract Hazard or Coutinho. I think. And Hazard, I'm not sure about. Coutinho, because I think he's a bit older, and I don't know how old is Hazard now. I can't even remember, to be honest. I feel like he's younger than Coutinho. Either way, there's a possibility in the summer that you might get them. You might get them in, or one of them in. You go all out, you survive. You sell the club to them, you sell the vision to them. Look, we're going to build a team around you for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Will you be interested in that? Do you want a project? Fair enough. I'm not sure is the answer. I'd love to think we could, and I think there's a possibility we could attract a player like that. And I think the owners will, in the summer, if we survive, will go for some sort of big name. So if they can encourage someone like that to come, I mean, if we could sign Hazard. Imagine that as a statement. I can't even imagine Newcastle being linked with a player like that, even now, even though we've got... To me, it just seems like a million miles away still. So, I don't know. Now, just going on to Joe Linton for a minute, and I promise I won't talk about him loads tonight, but I did just want to point out that I think one of the players, if you look at all the media that we've seen from the club in the last week or so, Joe Linton genuinely looks like he is buzzing that Eddie Howe is there. He looks like he is giving 100% already for Eddie Howe. And I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Joe Linton starts against Brentford. It's just a hunch I've got. Because I just think he seems up for the fight to try and get his place in the team and impress Eddie Howe. And I think there was a report out today about him um, focusing on his fitness or something, or getting some kind of extra coaching in. I can't remember what the story was, but it seems like his attitude is excellent at the moment. We'll see what happens, and maybe Howe will utilize him, like I said, as a big player who can hold the ball up and distribute a bit better than what we have had. Alan says it'll be interesting if Howe plays five at the back. My heart will sink if he does. Apparently, towards the end of his time at Bournemouth, he did play a 3-5-2, I believe. Like most of his managerial career, he's played a four at the back. But I think he did experiment with three at the back for at least a period of his career. But I don't think he'll do that personally. I think he's more likely to start with four at the back and possibly. I think it'll be Lascelles and Fernandez, and I think Cher might play in front of them, kind of like as a defensive midfielder. That's one of the things that I think might happen. I don't know because again, Cher's not been in the squad because he's been on international duty, so maybe he won't do that because he's just not seen enough of him. Maybe that'll come in time. There's a lot of ifs, buts, maybes, possibles. No one really knows what he's going to do, and that's a good thing. Like Brentford won't know what he's going to do, so that's going to be hard for them to prepare for the match because whatever Howe decides is going to be different to every single other game we've played this season. So that gives us a bit of an advantage straight away, in my opinion. If Howe can get them motivated and up for it, it's going to take Brentford a little bit of time to figure out exactly how we're playing. So that's a good thing. But I don't think it'll be five at the back. He might play three at the back with wing backs, possibly. I can't see it. I think it'll be four at the back. Andy F. When we get excited about the windows being cleaned, everything going forwards will be like Christmas Day every day compared to the last 14 years. It does feel a bit like that anyway, doesn't it? It feels like every day brings something new and exciting. And obviously we'll get back into the rhythm of stuff and it will all sort of settle down with Howe. But ultimately, there's a lot of exciting things to happen in the weeks and days and months to come because, hopefully the football results will get better and that's always going to make us feel more excited and better. But hopefully the team will improve. We'll sign some players in January. Like we'll hear news about the new training ground that they're going to build, about the academy, about other stuff they're going to invest in. We're going to hear about the stadium improvements. There's going to be so many things along the way in the next couple of years. It's going to be like a continual cycle of good news, really. The only potential fly in the ointment, from where I can see, is if we get relegated. And it's a big fly in the ointment, to be fair. But I don't know. It's just exciting, isn't it? There's so much to be excited about. We've had 14 years of nothing to be excited about, and finally, we've got a lot to be excited about. It's very, very, very exciting. Do you think they might redevelop the arena site? I think, to be perfectly honest with you, I honestly don't know what they're going to do. I think that they will investigate whether it's feasible long term to stay at St James's Park. I don't know how much of a priority the stadium is on their list right now. Ultimately, they need to survive this season as the owners and the club, but they know that St James's Park at 52,000 is not going to be big enough for what they want. They know that, so they might already be looking at that. They've audited the entire club. I'm sure stadium expansion will have been mentioned. I think they would be silly not to look at stadium expansion at St James's Park because who wouldn't want to be on that site where it is and all that kind of stuff. However, it could well be that they look at it and think, actually, we can only extend St James's Park to 60,000. Still not going to be enough for what we want. We need 70,000 or whatever. In which case, yeah, they could well look at other sites. Now, the arena site is one that keeps cropping up because obviously the arena is not going to be there for much longer. And then they've built a new one on Gateshead side, I believe. So will they develop that site? It's possible. It's possible. I mean, it's a kind of a logical site. And actually, I'd much rather if they did leave St James's Park the arena site wouldn't be as bad as some other places because the proximity to the city centre and the train station is still very, very good. So from that point of view, because I don't know about you, but as a Newcastle supporter, I'm proud of the fact that our football ground is right in the heart of the city. It's so unusual, especially for a club our size, a stadium our size. So the arena site is not. It's still it's still close to the city centre, isn't it? Essentially, like it's walkable. So it's not quite the same. I hope we don't leave St James's Park, but we might. We might. I don't know. Andy thinks we do have the quality of players, just lazy under Bruce. We'll have fitness and each player playing for each other, and most of all, a plan. And ultimately, Andy, if you've got all of those ingredients, you can be greater than the sum of your parts. You can be greater than the sum of your parts, and that's what we need to be right now. We're in a relegation battle, but if we can be fit, if we can control all the things that we can possibly control to the best of our ability, we will be fine. If we can stay fit, if we can have a plan, if we can stick to the plan, if we can buy into Eddie Howe and his whatever he wants to do, play for each other, like you say, that's half the battle. That is half of the battle. Morgul Blade says, hopefully Emanala will be next through the door. Would like to see a director of football before December the 1st. I think we'll hear something about a director of football really soon. Yeah, I think by the end of this month, actually, was a reasonable timescale. This guy, I mean, I like most people, probably knew nothing about him before a couple of weeks ago. Now, he had an exceptional record at Chelsea. He basically set up Chelsea's youth system as it is now. He identified all sorts of players, De Bruyne, Hazard, I think. I can't remember. There's a list as long as your arm of like quality players who he identified originally back in the sort of mid 2000s and onwards, and all these players have had stellar careers. And ultimately, if he can do that sort of a job for us, if he's capable of that kind of work, and he has the funds and the whatever it is, the backing from the new owners to do that with us, it's exciting. It's very exciting. But who would have thought we'd be having discussions about director of football? You know, like that's not a conversation football fans have really that often, is it? About that sort of thing. 6-0. God grief. So I might even be more than that now. I'm going to scroll down to some comments. So Liam, yeah. So the question is, can we make St James's Park as big as grounds like the Emirates and the London Stadium? Yeah, I mean the London Stadium's only 55,000 anyway, isn't it? I know they're planning on extending that potentially as well. So I think a good capacity for us would be somewhere around 65,000. I know people say, oh, we need 80, 90,000. I don't actually think we do. I think that's massive. And I know Newcastle's got a huge support and it's going to be very hard to get tickets. But I think 65,000 would be like really, really cool. Really, really good. Mark says, agree, Liam, the stadium is suitable, but the new owners want the best and is suitable enough for them. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, you've got to remember their culture as well. Like that kind of culture from like the Middle East and this kind of these oil states. It's all about showing off. It's all about kind of look at how we've got the biggest and the best, and just look at all the buildings they built in like Dubai and stuff. It's because they wanted, and they did the palm leaf and the map of the world that they reclaimed from the sea, and it's like all these big projects that they do because they want to show off that they're the best, and the Saudis will be no different to that. So I do agree with Mark, and I think if the Saudi PAF want to show off with the best stadium in the world, the fanciest stadium in the world, that's maybe what we'll end up with, and that could mean leaving St James's Park. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because is that the price we pay for having these owners that we wanted to come out and take over from Ashley? Is that the price we'll end up paying? Losing St James's Park? I think time will tell. I don't think it's going to be anything imminent, but I don't know. Like, it's just, it fills me with dread. Stephen, you said the danger of having a huge stadium is if you lose the atmosphere. This is why I'm saying like 65,000, whatever, 67, maybe something like that would be mint, because I still think you'd retain the atmosphere. However, if you've got people willing to build a new stadium that is unique, one of a kind, amazing new stadium, like look at the Spurs stadium, for example, things like acoustics are taken into account. So at Tottenham, I know that it's literally been designed so that the sound is amplified to the highest level it can be. So there's ways around that with a big stadium. However, like Spurs Stadium is 60,000, is it anywhere? Something like that. 60, is there 65,000? I can't remember now, actually. But like, it can be done, even with huge stadiums, if you design it correctly and you think about the acoustics. You know, these engineers are bright, aren't they? But I don't know. We'll see. Alan says, it's the first time in 15 years I'm genuinely looking forward to a transfer window. Totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, I used to get excited about transfer windows, and then transfer deadline day means nothing to me, or has meant nothing to me for basically 15 years. And now it will again. That's exciting. That's another thing that's going to come that's good. I can see them moving St James's Park into Leazes Park. Don't imagine they want to be second biggest at anything. Yeah, and this is the point. Like they'll want to be the biggest and the best, and they might end up building this huge, massive stadium that's bigger than Man United's or something. Who knows what they'll do? I don't know. Whether they'll move into Leazes Park, I don't know that. Like I keep hearing that, and it's sort of, there's some logic to it, but also you just think, is that actually likely to happen because of like the green issue, like green space in cities and all that kind of stuff? Maybe that just can't happen. Like there'd be hell on, wouldn't there? Evening, Keith. The only excitement we had in 14 years was finishing fifth and qualifying for the Europa League in 2012. Totally agree. That was the one good season we had under Ashley, wasn't it? Yeah, we got promoted twice. We had two. You know, the seasons in the Championship were fun, but they weren't. We should never have been there. Like, I mean, we deserved to be there because we were crap. But like, if the club was run properly, Newcastle shouldn't have been getting relegated twice. So we had two seasons in the Championship which were fun, but ultimately there was nothing really satisfying about those Championship seasons, because it just came from a complete mess from the top. That's why we were there. But yeah, that one season under Pardew where we finished fifth, and you look at that team actually, and it was a good team. Like, I mean, Colaccini, we had Cabaye, Tiote, Ben Arthur, Cisse. It was a good team. Like, some really good players in that team, and it was exciting. That was a really good season. But then, of course, we did the thing that Ashley did every single year. We didn't invest, and if you don't invest in football, you go backwards. And that's what we did quickly, and it went very, very, very badly wrong very, very quickly. It was just a shame we Ashley would just never build on anything like that. Joe will be, so just go back to Joe Linton. Joe will be delighted about being played in his proper position as a 10 hold-up player. Really good at that, and close control plays around. Steve, I agree. I've been banging this drum for a while, for a couple of weeks at least on this channel about him. You watch Joe Linton's close control. It's very good. He's very good. He's very strong, and he's about the only player in the squad that we have right now who can do that. And I think Howe will recognise that. And that's why it wouldn't surprise me if Joe Linton is in the starting 11 against Brentford. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because we need players who can hold the ball up. And if you think about the way Eddie Howe wants to play, he wants us to be on the front foot attacking. Well, to do that, you've got to have someone who can hold the ball up so your midfield can catch up and push forwards. I think he's the only person in the squad capable of doing that at the moment. Sam Maximin's a different beast. He's got all the skill in the world, but he faces where he's going. He runs at players. He doesn't hold the ball up. Like, it's not his game style. So It's very interesting. Hope Joe Linton can show us why we paid 40 million for him. Yeah, I mean, let's hope he can. I don't think he's ever going to prove he's worth 40 million pounds, but I just think he can do a bit of a job for us this season. Neil says, I think Howe will devise a system of play sooner rather than later. The club will bring in players to suit the formation and style of play for the sake of buying them. Yeah, spot on, Neil. In terms of this is how good football clubs are run these days. They have a formation and a style, and they target players that fit that formation and style. Look at Man City, look at Chelsea. Chelsea are a brilliant example of this because Tuchel very rarely plays the same team twice. In fact, I don't know if he's played the same unchanged team all season. I bet he hasn't. But if you look at the quality of players that Chelsea have, the ones who come in are as good as the ones who sit out for a game. It's incredible. And Man City the same. Obviously, you've always got your core players, and that's the way it is, and that's fine. But you've got to have players that fit your system. You can't just buy players for the sake of it. And it's not just about their attributes in terms of what they can do on the pitch. It's their mentality. It's their attitude to everything. It's the whole package with players that you've got to make sure you've got the whole thing with them. And this is what Newcastle's going to become. Eddie Howe will have a system and he will stick to that system most of the time. And that's how we'll recruit players. And that's what the director of football will do. Alan, yeah, this is it, Alan. I think there'll be a lot of opportunity. There'll be a lot of people unhappy with Newcastle trying to do that, and I think it's a non-starter. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. Kyle, not a fan of Joe, but he's been good coming off the bench recently. Exactly. I think that's kind of where I've come from. I've given Joe Linton as much stick as anyone else. He's not been great, and obviously that first season he was a disaster and all that stuff. But I think he's got a good attitude, and he's putting himself about, and his touch is good. His touch is good. Has the land that Ashley sold been built on yet? Surely that will be a phone call the new owners will make. I wouldn't be surprised if those phone calls have already made. Now, when I went to the Chelsea match, it didn't look like any building work had began. But then I watched a video on if you've ever watched Tyneside Life's vlog about that issue, about extending St James's Park. If you've not watched it, go and watch it. It's really good. He was stood in the car park at the metro station below the Gallagher, at the back of the Gallagher, and he said that they've literally started. There was a small area where some construction work had just started. But if you walk along Strawberry Place, you can't see that. I didn't see it on the match day. I never picked up on that. It looked like no building directly behind the stand had happened. So I think if enough money's put about, it wouldn't surprise me if that land could get bought back at a premium if they want to extend St James's Park. Because ultimately, if they don't want to extend St James's Park and they think the best thing for the club is for a new stadium, the new owners they're not going to do that, are they? So it's going to be really interesting to see if they want to do that or not. But because the work there is about to start imminently, essentially, so it could be too late. It could be too late. So, right. Thank you so much. 7-0 to England. Get in. Well, at least England are going to the World Cup, At least England are going to go to the World Cup. Andy agrees about 60,000. We could dig down just now. I've heard this, and actually, a guy called Sean sent me some stuff about how that might possibly work. If I can kind of get enough detail on that together, because I can't understand how you could dig down. I guess you'd have to take the bottom tier of seats out, dig down, build some. I don't know. It might be possible. It might be possible. I might make a video about that in the next few weeks if I can, because it is an interesting one. This whole digging down of St James's to extend. So digging it down, and I don't know. We'll see how it works. It might not be able to work, but people think that it can. So Anyway, listen, I've done an hour. I wasn't even going to do one of these tonight. So thank you so much to everyone who's joined me, joined in, messaged. Hit the like button now as well, please, if you haven't done that, because that helps spread it to people when I'm not live, and people can watch it as well, and that's always good. I will be doing normal videos this week, so I just wanted to come on tonight and sort of talk a little bit. I was going to do a video tonight, but I thought I was in late from work. I thought I'll just do a live. We'll have a bit of a chat about goings on, and then I'll make some videos for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. Hopefully, I'll be able to get 3 or 4 videos out this week. So thank you very much, everybody. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see what more developments are going to happen at Newcastle United tomorrow, because I'm sure there'll be something new once again, because there always is. And anyway, take care, everyone. Thanks for joining me.